You opened ChatGPT, typed hi, and got a friendly reply. Then you just sat there, cursor blinking, with no idea what to ask. You typed, "What can you do?" skimmed it, and closed the tab. Here's how I'd read that moment. The freeze isn't you, and it isn't the tool. You started in the wrong place. Almost everyone does. They open the app first, when they should pick a task first. Forget the tool list. I'll show you how to use AI on one task you already do, in 3 passes. So let me name the scene properly, because you have lived it. You hear for the 100th time that you should be using AI by now, and you know the names: ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. That note taker your coworker won't stop mentioning. So you open one and the blank box just stares back like it's waiting for you to leave. You poke at it for a minute, maybe ask it to write a poem or plan a fake trip, and then you go right back to doing the work by hand exactly like before. That blank box is where most people quietly give up. Look, the scale of this is almost funny. OpenAI says ChatGPT crossed around 800 million weekly users last fall, and yet a 2025 Gallup survey found only about 1 in 10 US workers used AI on a normal workday. A Pew survey the same year found roughly 2/3 of workers say they barely touch it for the job. So the picture is strange. The tool is in nearly everyone's hands, and almost nobody has built it into how they actually work. The tool is everywhere. The workflow is almost nowhere, and that gap is the whole reason you feel behind, not because you're slow, and not because the tool is too advanced for you. That gap isn't an access problem, and it isn't an intelligence problem, it's a starting point problem. A starting point is the easiest thing in the world to change, and by the end of this, you'll have one you can use tomorrow. The collecting trap. Here's the trap nobody warns you about. The internet teaches beginners that learning AI means collecting AI. Open a best tools video, and it's a parade. This one for writing, this one for images, this one for slides, this one for slides, but prettier. You bookmark all of them, you sign up for half of them, and you tell yourself you'll explore them this weekend. Watch 5 of those videos back to back, and you don't end up with a workflow. You end up with 8 open tabs, 3 new logins, and nothing actually finished. You're tool rich and outcome poor, and the directories are perfectly happy to keep you that way because their whole business is the next shiny thing. There's no clean count, but the public directories now list tens of thousands of AI tools, roughly 10 times what they listed back in 2022. Nobody can actually use tens of thousands of anything. Truth is, piling on more tools usually makes the problem worse instead of better. A Harvard Business Review Analytic Services survey found nearly half of executives think the sheer pileup of digital tools is hurting productivity, not helping it. Other workplace research clocks people flipping between apps about 33 times a day and losing roughly 9 minutes each time just getting back into the actual work. Read that again. 9 minutes to recover, 30-something times a day just from switching windows. Now picture dropping a 10th AI tab onto that pile and being honest about whether it makes your day calmer or louder. You didn't fix the chaos, you subscribed to it. This matters if your work depends on shipping things, not bookmarking them. So be honest with yourself for a second. How many AI tabs are open right now that you haven't touched all week? That quiet, guilty feeling is the real cost of starting with tools, and their fix is to start somewhere much smaller. Start with the task. So here's the actual move. Pick one task before you pick any tool, not a whole category like writing. One real specific thing you already do most weeks. Maybe it's the Monday update you dread, or the meeting notes you turn into action items. Maybe it's the first draft of the proposal you always end up rewriting 4 times, or the inbox triage that eats your morning before you've even had coffee. Pick the one that's boring, repeats, and already lives on your calendar whether you like it or not. Boring is the point here. Why something you already do instead of some impressive new thing? Because you can judge the output the second it lands. You know what good looks like on this task, so you can tell instantly when the draft is off. A brand new task gives you nothing to measure against. And that's exactly how people end up trusting confident, polished, completely wrong answers. The familiar task is your safety net. You'll catch the mistakes because you already know the shape of the right answer. So pick that one and let it be your whole curriculum for the week. Everything else, every other tool, every other clever trick you saw in a thumbnail, you're allowed to ignore for now. Ignoring the right things is a skill, not a sign you're falling behind. It's honestly how you get started in the first place. the new hire. Now, how should you actually talk to the thing? First, drop the phrase prompt engineering, because it makes a simple skill sound like a coding exam and scares people off for no reason. You don't need secret words or a magic formula. Here's a picture that works far better. Treat the AI like a sharp new hire on their first morning. Fast, eager, genuinely capable, and completely blind to your job. It doesn't know your clients, your standards, your history, or the way your boss likes things phrased. You'd never drop one vague sentence on a new hire and expect brilliance to come back. You'd brief them, show them one good example, then read their draft and tell them exactly what missed. That, honestly, is the entire skill. Brief it, check it, correct it. A good brief carries 3 simple things: what you want, who it's for, and one example of good pulled from your own past work. That last part is the cheat code most people skip, because a single real example teaches the AI more than a paragraph of instructions ever will. That's not a magic spell, it's just delegation. The same thing every halfway decent manager already does on autopilot. The good news is you don't have to learn a new skill. You have to use one you already have. 3 passes. Let me run the whole thing, start to finish, on a single task. Picture a freelancer, call her Maya, who writes a client update every Friday and quietly dreads it. On the first pass, Maya just tells the assistant, "Write my client update," and gets back generic mush. All corporate filler and zero substance. Most people stop at that first try and decide AI is overhyped, which is really just quitting on the worst possible version. On the second pass, she adds the context a new hire would have needed. She says, "Here's what we shipped this week. Here are the 3 numbers the client cares about. Here's the calm but confident tone I use. And here's last month's update I was happy with." Now the draft is most of the way there. Still a little stiff, still says synergy once, which Maya would never. On the third pass, she doesn't start over. She just corrects line by line, cut the jargon, keep the second paragraph, make the opening shorter. And that one's usable. Not perfect, not magic, usable, which is the only bar that matters on a Friday afternoon. The whole thing took under 10 minutes, and most of that was the pass 1 setup she'll now reuse every single week from here on. Next Friday, she pastes in the new numbers, runs the same 3 passes, and she's done before she's finished her coffee. That's the entire method. 1 task, 3 passes, brief, check, correct. Notice what she never did. She never opened a second tool, never read a prompt engineering guide, and never once typed the word synergy on purpose, where it breaks. Now the part the tool list videos always skip, the places where this stuff quietly falls apart, because it will fall apart and you'll want to see it coming. AI is strangely lopsided. It's brilliant at the short, contained task, and shaky the moment things get long or open-ended. AI evaluation researchers at a group called METR measured exactly this. On tasks that take a human a few minutes, the best models nail almost all of them, but on tasks that take a human several hours, they succeed less than 1 time in 10. On another test called Web Arena, the strongest single agent finished about 62% of real web tasks, while humans landed up around 78%. And the researchers themselves warned that even those scores probably flatter how the agents do out in the messy real world. So here's the honest read. A demo is a highlight reel, and your Tuesday is the full game. When you see an AI agent books your whole trip clip, enjoy it. Then quietly assume the rougher version on your actual calendar. The failure you'll hit most is the confident wrong answer. Confident, calm, and flatly wrong. It'll invent a statistic, a quote, or a fake citation, and hand it to you in the exact same calm voice it uses for the truth, like a colleague who's never once said, "I don't know." It'll do flawless-looking math that's quietly off by a 0, or cite a study that was never written. None of that means the tool is broken. That means the tool has a known weak spot, and your job is to cover it. The fix is a habit, not another tool. Anything that's a fact, a number, or a name, you check before it leaves your hands. That's also exactly why you start with a task you already understand, because you'll spot the nonsense your first read. Treat the AI like a fast first draft and never the final word. And you're already ahead of most people typing into that box. What actually matters? Okay, now you get your tool list, and it's shorter than you'd expect. For almost everyone starting out, 3 categories cover the whole job. First, a general assistant for thinking, writing, and summarizing, your ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. And you really just pick one and learn it well instead of sampling all 3. This one handles the Maya task, the emails, the drafts, the explain this to me like I'm new questions. Second, a note taker that turns your calls into searchable notes and action items, but only if meetings genuinely run your week. Third, a search-style tool that answers with its sources attached for the moments you need to check a fact instead of guess at it. That's the starter kit, not 10 tools, 3. And honestly, you can begin with only the first one. Everything past that is a specialist you call in later. Once you actually hit a wall the general assistant can't handle. The real question is whether a tool earns a place in your week, and the test is refreshingly simple. If the free version already does what you need, then don't pay yet. Does it remove a bottleneck you actually hit, or does it just look slick in a 30-second demo? If it's only slick, close the tab, because nothing earns a subscription on Vibes. A tool earns an open when it makes one repeated task faster, and not a single moment before. Yes, the pressure to grab everything is real, and it isn't your imagination. Microsoft's 2025 Work Trend Index, and that's 31,000 people across 31 countries, found more than 4 in 5 leaders plan to lean on AI agents within a year or 2. Read that as a signal of where work is drifting, not a deadline you've somehow already missed. The people who do well here won't be the ones with the most tools. They'll be the ones who got genuinely fluent with a few tomorrow morning. So what do you actually do tomorrow morning? Just one thing. Name the task you'd hand off first. Maybe it's the Friday update, the meeting notes, or the draft you always end up rewriting. Open one assistant, only one, and run the 3 passes on it. Brief it like a new hire, read what comes back, and correct it a couple of times. You'll have something usable before your coffee's gone cold and a setup you can reuse every week after that. That's how I should really use AI finally turns into I actually use AI. And if you felt behind through this whole thing, hear this part clearly. You were never behind. You were just starting with the tool instead of the task. Pick the task and let the tool be what it always was. The last decision. So tell me down in the comments, what's the one task you'd hand off first? That's your starting point, and I read every reply.